bags where horror lies.
Hello, welcome to Body Bags. My name is James and I'm your Sunday night reviewer, and this evening I wanted to bring you 2008 movie Bronson. So not your typical horror movie, but there's plenty of horrific elements that go on throughout this movie. So I will butcher the name of the director. You know him from movies like Drive and Only God Forgives and the Pusher trilogy, but it's Nicholas Winding Refn. Yeah, butchered it. Live in Finland, but that does not make me good with a Norwegian. And even Danish names. Yeah, he's a Danish guy. Yeah, okay. But anyway, so this is an earlier movie of his. Like I said, it's 2008, and it's following the, like I said, it's a biopic of Mickey Peterson. So, Mickey Peterson, I will go through the biopic of this rather than the story of his life, because it makes sense because we're talking about the movie. So yeah, we start off following him. He's in his youth. He's narrating his own story. So before I kind of go into this, Tom Hardy nailed this so well. I thought his kind of depiction, his perception of how Charles Bronson should be, Mickey Peterson, I thought it was superb, and the direction that NWR, I'll call him, took with this, the cinematography, like some of the scenes, and early on in this you can see that he was gearing up to some of the visual delights that we get later, but they're in here as well. It's just they're not maybe as glossed. It's not maybe about like the technology behind like the cameras used and the things like that and the lighting, but it's very much like the stage and the setup of all these different scenes. They look superb in this. That coupled with Hardy's performance, this is a really good and very, very much underrated movie. But we start off on the early life. So Bronson, so Mickey Peterson, he changes his name to Charles Bronson. So he's talking about his childhood, that it was perfectly fine. Nothing like weird from it. He got into a few fights at school and stuff like that. But he has a job at a fish and chip shop. He likes the girl in there. They kind of get together and have a kid together, and he decides to knock off a local post office and gets hardly anything for it. It's a really bad life decision. He gets 7 years in prison, and he turns out to be a pretty violent prisoner. Like, he's pretty violent in school, really, like starting fights and stuff like that. So yeah, he's kind of getting in a bit of trouble. But he realizes, as I think the phrase he uses, prison to him wasn't like a hellhole. It was like it was a place to sharpen his tools, sharpen his fighting, sharpen his mind, sort of thing. And he's a very, very, very interesting guy in real life. And I thought Hardy's depiction of him was very colourful, especially how you have this narration going on, and then it kind of flicks over, so you see him. He's like talking to an audience, sort of thing, and it's like, wasn't expecting that, and it goes really, really well, because he's quite a unique character, Charles Bronson, and so this all ties up. It's really, NWR, I'm just going to keep him like that. He's very clever with how he kind of puts all this together. So so Mickey Peterson, he loses contact with his girlfriend and the kid. He's not really fussed, and he comes out, goes back to his family home, but they've moved. Not happy with that, and he wants to go back to live with his uncle in Luton. And he's kind of shacked up there. His uncle is an unusual guy. He has like this harem of people living with him, and he actually bumps into a prisoner who is released, but it's a guy that he saw in prison, sort of thing. And he's like got this kind of nightclub. He's like, how'd you get this? He's like, how'd you get the money for this? And he's like, takes him to do some bare knuckle boxing, sort of thing. So he knows he's like this, he's a vicious kind of guy, like Bronson. He comes up with his names like Mickey Peterson, that's nothing. And he's like, you need like a movie star name. And he's like, Charlton Heston. And he's like, fuck Charlton Heston. You need something like Charlie Bronson. So yeah, it's kind of how the name was born. It's just like his fighting persona. And so he takes this on. It's like his armor. He's like takes on this suit of Charlie Bronson. It's this like fighting mode that he has. So he's just fighting his people, and then he fights two people. He's fighting animals and stuff like that. He's trying to make a name for himself, but he doesn't really have. He has his ideals, but he doesn't know how to kind of bring them to fruition. Kind of like he's very idealistic with like how he thinks like things are, but he doesn't have these. Doesn't know how to lead this ambition, and it's kind of quite interesting to see someone that's and how it comes across in the movie. Someone that's so like so not single-minded, but they're so sure of the person who they are and their beliefs and how they talk. It's like everything's very. You didn't say things by mistake. It's like all the things like when he's in a situation, it's like he's a deep thinker. He's thinking about these things like different situations, different occurrences that are happening, and it's like it's not by accident or by convenience that the situations happen, or by politeness. It's like so many situations that come through as awkwardness because it's like, well, this is how I kind of deal with this stuff, and it's kind of really interesting. But anyway, yeah, he gets back in jail. Yeah, he raids this. But basically, he raids this jewelers for a ring, and he gets put back in jail. And he's kind of really fucking going crazy now. He's back in his like in his home, kind of, and he's like, it's all these like prisoners that are like cheering and chanting his name. He's like, this is my kingdom. But then he fucks up and he gets put in like an insane asylum, and it's like fucking screwing him up. But he manages to get himself out of there. In the end, he like tries to kill someone, but they don't get him out. He doesn't kill them, so they like stick him in there. Then he kind of goes on strike and stuff like that. Basically, he's costing hundreds and thousands of pounds for the taxpayers, and this is like 70s and 80s, and this stuff really did happen. So they move him at Her Majesty's request to like another prison as Broadhurst and all these famous hard prisons in the UK, and he's like loving them all, as long as he's not in this kind of insane asylum. But then he's like in solitary confinement for it's like almost 30 years, and it's that's going to do stuff to a person. That's going to kind of make them pretty crazy, I think. Yeah, it's it's going to make them go a little mad. And yeah, he always has like problems like connecting with people, and he's in this class. He doesn't bother with classes normally. Like there's this one, his woodwork shop, and he's like, he doesn't want to be in that. He's like not interested. But there's this art class, and they notice he has a bit of an eye for art, for detail, or they're kind of like comics, and these are real things. I'm sure that these weren't props. They use actual like Charlie Bronson or Mickey Peterson's artwork like within the movie, because yeah, people buy art from him. It's like he's known for it, stuff like that. And yeah, he's reacting again to like what someone is saying. It's like, you can go really far here, and it's like we can go really far. Like, what do you mean we? And it's like, what do you know about me, sort of thing. And it's like people start to get comfortable around him, and this is the sort of person, they're a scary person. You can't get comfortable around them because you never know how they're going to react and what they're going to do. And he like takes him hostage, and yeah, it all goes fucking crazy, and he's like on parole, and to this day he's still in prison for never actually killing anyone as well. He's tried to kill someone, almost succeeded, but yeah, he's never, Charles Bronson, from what I know, I'm pretty sure he's never killed one person. It's just an unfortunate life, I think. Yeah, unfortunate circumstances, and choices he makes, and the situations for breaking the law weren't the best, and there's no relevance, they weren't worth anything. So it's kind of, he's built this life in this institution that becomes like his church almost, and his gym, and his life and everything's about that. He's being institutionalized in prison, and for spending like nearly 30 years in solitary confinement, just being like super violent. It's crazy because you think there's many prisons around the world, and like some of them in like South America countries and stuff like that, they're renowned for being so much more violent, and they're just all thrown together. But it's like how the system is in the UK. It's but like I said, it's so well put together, and it's so interesting. Like I said, I wasn't expecting how the narrative was all put together, and it's sewn together beautifully. Like I said, Tom Hardy's narrating throughout his life as, like I said, as Bronson, and it's kind of coupled with these fantastic like sets and imagery and poses and framings, and such good camera work, and like everything is so well thought of. He's one of these directors that everything is in the scene for a reason, and it has a balance, and it has a like contrast to it, and it looks so good. And then with the narration, with how the story's going, not only is it like normal narration, but then you have these pockets where he's like talking to the audience, and it's fantastic movie. But yeah, there's bits like where he's fighting, he's like covering himself in his war paint and stuff like that, and like he's one of these characters which is also scary because he's a real person, where it's like really frightening that you don't know what someone's going to do. And it's like Sexy Beast. It's a UK movie, and it's like one of the characters in there, I can't remember his name now, but he's this really, really, really scary character in there. And it's like, it's just, so there's people that I find like scary, kind of. It's like you can't gauge them. You don't know how they're going to react, and you're just never comfortable around them. And as soon as you get comfortable, that's where you fucked up, because that's when they get crazy. And it's one like this. So that's why I kind of wanted to speak about this film. And it's like you have a lot of like these robberies and this violence and this fighting, and covering himself in shit and fighting and trying to kill people and strangle people. So you have these horror elements. And it's like I wanted to bring some light to this movie, because I know the director's well known, and I know this movie is well known. Well, not overly well known, but like people know about this, and they might not put the two together of who directed it and who made it. Like, might even not notice that Tom Hardy's in this, and it could bring like people to, maybe I'll give it a try. But like, I highly recommend this. It's a really entertaining movie. And that's the end of the review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.